Fish fly, birds swim, reptile slides. One of those is true, but it sounds about as ridiculous as the other two. Mortal Kombat's reptile is a moss-colored chap with very inconsistent fashion sense and who has trouble finding a girlfriend, possibly because his entire species is fucking dead. Still skill issue. There are many confounding mysteries about reptile, like how does he eat people so quick? Why does he never run out of stomach acid? Why does he get killed in his own ending? Do his clothes go up his ass when he goes full iguana mode, or is he perma-naked, Mystique style, and just shapeshifts himself to look like bad concept art that should have been banished to the cutting room floor but somehow made it into the final product? But no doubt one of the biggest, most burning questions is, where did my date go? This is a perfectly valid conversation starter. One of the biggest, most burning questions is, what the fuck is reptile slide? My Discord went to buzz with this question, and I'm here to answer that question. 2 months later. Better late than never. Better lame than nether. Realm. I mean, I answered it then and there, but most of you aren't in the Discord. I have no idea why. Yes, let's all completely ignore each other and just chat with this one guy. Sounds like a fun party. I mean, it's not like I snatch a portion of your soul when you join. That's a completely unsubstantiated claim. Who said that? I sure didn't. Anyway. Real talk, I figured this question deserves a more comprehensive answer because it's a surprisingly pertinent question. Because think about it, Reptile borrowed moves from Torchface and Frozenstein in his first appearance, but he later grew into his own moveset, ditched the spear and the ice ball, but kept the slide, which is a bit strange. I mean, imagine if it were any other move. Imagine if he came back with force balls, acid spits, invisibilities, and an ice blast. It'd be downright perplexing. But the slide is kinda innocuous and slides under the radar. And anyone can do a freaking slide is what you're gonna say, but it's not the usual kind of slide, like Aaron Black's slide, which looks totally like what a Norma would do and is capable of doing, but Reptile does the Sub-Zero slide where his feet suddenly try to quiet quit off the stage. They try to exit stage right. And what happened? Did he spontaneously grow skates on his soles? Does a stunt guy pull the carpet with Reptile on it from the side of the stage? Does Reptile actually change the angle of gravity to slide fall on your fucking face? Bro, it's just slime. In the newer games, he's full of slime. Yeah, and he also apparently smells like 4-year-old Gorgonzola when he attempts the hula hula. According to them, Reptile's magical saliva burns, slips, slides, floats, explodes, stinks, and makes you invisible whenever convenient. So I think I'll disregard their fanon bullshit. And even if you're not into my fanon bullshit with the force and the shadow and the power system stuff, you still need to come up with an answer, so let's get stuck into the weeds, shall we? There are 3 main possibilities I can think of. Number 1, grease generated biologically. Magical sweat saliva notwithstanding, this could be some kind of substance generated from special glands in his arms and feet as part of his natural biology, maybe to help reptiles slide down trees and surfaces without generating friction so they could get around faster. If you've ever slid down a rope without gloves, then you know there's less painful, more efficient ways to flay yourself alive. So if we're talking about a species of skibbity plop plops who routinely slide down rough surfaces like trees, cliffs, rocky terrain, and worse, it makes sense they develop some kind of protective coating to keep their limbs from burning off like a Prius on re-entry. Scales and calluses won't cut it here. That's part of it, but a thick enough layer of grease that one can summon at their will work best. This works doubly well when you consider how hostile Zatera must have been, something I talk about here or maybe here, to generate apex predators that can go invisible, move faster than a cheetah on LSD, and accidentally melt you down to a candlestick at the slightest hint of indigestion. The conditions must have been unbelievably harsh to generate such a deadly, dominant race of dicks. The natural predators, the surrounding environment, even the weather, all must have conspired to try to kill these motherfuckers only for them to go... What's up? It took an interdimensional warlord with infinite army and infinite fuck you magic to liquidate the lot of them, just spamming cheat codes like a Russian hacker. This would mean that Sub and Rep both sporting a slide is nothing more than a coincidence, which, by the way, I always thought that since we kept one move from one ninja, we should consider giving him a move reminiscent of Scorp's kid too, like perhaps a tail grab that callbacks to the get over here without being as functionally useful as the real thing. Because he already has force balls and shit which serve a similar purpose, so that's way enough. As long as you don't keep nerfing the shit out of them. By the way, please stop nerfing the shit out of them. Number 2 possibility is some low-level water element usage, since it's closely related to force, and that's all Reptile can muster. If you're a new viewer and this is your first video, then this is the point where the words stop making sense and you're now sure someone slipped one too many psychedelics into your morning coffee and you're about to die. Fear not, it's not you, it's me. This will require the tiniest explanation to make sense. A while ago, I documented all the special moves of the Mortal Kombat characters into a comprehensive power system and made all sorts of connections between them, like how smoke and lava and sand are all just combinations of basic elements that create new, more powerful elements that are then used by the cast. Reptile's force balls are part of one such composite element, and one of the most ubiquitous, because half the roster sports some kind of force ball or force trap or sparkly projectile, all of them with the same basic properties. They're liquidy, they have light and heat, and they explode. Why is force a combination of water and fire? Because it's liquidy, has light and heat, and explodes. Also because blue balls is a waterbender, yellowed balls is a firebender, and wouldn't you know it, moss balls The king of force balls is a literal combination of sub and scorps. That was a lot of balls in one phrase. From a color standpoint, from a conceptual standpoint, behind the scenes standpoint, from a character flavor standpoint, Reptile is a combination of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. So it makes sense to make his powers an alchemical combination of the elements those two mofos use. Of course, that doesn't automatically mean Reptile can use the component parts too. Just because Johnny uses force balls doesn't mean he's any kind of waterbender or firebender, because he clearly isn't. So he can learn the compound directly and not fuck about with the things that it's made of, but Reptile may have some small inclination towards waterbending, mostly unfulfilled, unpracticed, but just enough to generate a small amount and slip and slide his way forward, in much the way option A would, but through elemental rather than biological means. Cryomancers, for instance, can also be argued to have some latent earthbending ability, since they can only manipulate solid water, aka ice, and use it the same way an earthbender would use earth. More on that theory here. So it's normal for people to have all sorts of latent inclinations to neighboring elements that are unfulfilled for the most part. This is somewhat supported by the fact that, broadly speaking, there are two types of force attacks, watery ones and fiery ones. Fiery ones resemble light and laser beams more, and watery ones are more splashy and squishy, and they get in your nose and under your fingernails and never wash off. Reptile's balls are definitely more on the watery side by the looks of him, so this may or may not mean he's more water-minded than fire-minded, hence why developing some meager skill with the water element might make sense, but it's just a theory. And the third possibility is mimicry, specifically latent chameleon-like mimicry from observing Sub-Zero, which some of the big-brained discordants have already suggested. The two chameleons are part of Reptile's race. Now, there are very few Zaterrans who inherit this gene and grow to develop the ability to mimic other creatures and their abilities, and Reptile is clearly not one of them. But the theory goes that he might, in fact, have those genes without realizing it. Is latent? Is dormant? It basically ties to this older idea about how perhaps Reptile is the male chameleon, he just doesn't know it. It's a bit of multiple personality disorder. But even if he isn't, he could still have the potential to mimic but never unlocked it because he never knew he had it. And his race is dead, so he has no one to learn it from, but it still manifests in small ways. A fighting style here, a special move there, some skills, some powers, some dance moves. So he could have either fought or observed Sub-Zero sliding into the DMs of his enemies, and by DMs I mean dumb mugs, and just copying that move for himself. It's not like a fireball or a spear or anything hyper-specific like that would take a full-on chameleon to copy. It's just you pretending to slip on ice, so it makes sense that it would be easily mimicked. Let me know which one you think it is, place that vote on the poll in the description, and place the like or the dislike here as thanks for me burdening you with all this critically important information. Okay, bye! Special thanks to Jiggly Puff Puff, Thomas Marshall, Serhi Hrishin, Clocks, Juan Bautista Cortez, as well as my other members for being irresponsible enough with their spending to support the channel. I was wondering, which design of reptile do you prefer? Hey, I dislike most if not all of them. One of the main rules to maintain a character's mystique is shut the fuck up. The more you talk, the less mysterious you are. MK9 Reptile gets this right, he never said a word, but then he also looked like a fucking tadpole, and sounded like a sigh. MKX Reptile looks like he was torpedoed through the dinosaur section of a museum, and goes nyah, nyah, nyah all the time.